I would challenge the idea of wanting too much, like, feeling like that. So that kind of the words there, like the too much, wanting too much, feeling too much. I feel, to me, I don't actually, I feel like there isn't too much, right? I feel like you have an entire lifetime to obtain everything that it is you want. And obviously we change and we pivot with things along the way. Our desires may change, goals change. But I feel like there isn't too much. So, I feel like we're here to live on purpose, right? Not to like, I mean, we live our purpose, but we live on purpose, right? So inviting more of those things, everything that it is that you actually do want.
Hey guys, welcome to our SoulFam Podcast, where I interview space holders from all over the world. I'm your host. My name is Karolina, and I am the connection catalyst. I help spiritual entrepreneurs experience deeper connection with themselves, with others, and with the universe. Today on the show, we have Jenn, the Ritual+Desire-Based Coach. Welcome to the show, Jenn. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. It's truly an honor to be on here with you and talking with you today and everyone that I've seen come on your podcast. It's just really an amazing community and I'm really excited to be here. So thank you. Very honored.
Oh, thank you so much. It just warms up my heart so much when I hear something like that. Oh, that's really, really amazing. And so I'm so excited to talk to you because especially because you're all about rituals and the desire and ritual lust, right? So that's very, very aligned with me right now because right now I actually on Friday and it's like what, Tuesday today or Monday, I don't know. I don't count the days of the weeks. I'm actually going for ISTA for the first ISTA training, International School of Temple Arts, and it's all about the shamanic, sexual, tantric kind of communication stuff. So for me, it's very, very aligned to talk to you right now and to really open up these discussions. And literally 2 days ago, I was doing the tantric self-pleasure ritual guided by my dear friend Elisa Caro. She's a sex and relationship coach. She does amazing stuff, and it's just so aligned with me to talk to you now with all these things happening. And now that I'm so excited. But the first question that I would like to ask you is your journey. How did you become the ritual and desire-based coach in terms of what has brought you to this specific niche, this specific journey? What has inspired you to become this person now?
Yeah. Okay. Let me see how I can, I'll try and keep this like summarized, but I've always been into creating rituals, like ever since I remember being alive, being connected to like my ancestry. I come from an Italian background. And so I've always felt this deeper connection to my ancestors. I've always collected things and created things like, and felt into the energies of them, kind of like utilizing them as tools throughout my entire life, really since I've been alive. And so and I've also been very deeply connected to my sexuality since I was a very young girl. I found it as like a safe place for me. I found it as like a place of power to go. I also grew up in a household that wasn't really sex positive, or we didn't really talk about it very much. So I was kind of like on my own and discovering that throughout my life. I knew it felt good. I knew this is a place that I'd go to. And so I've always connected them as I've been like growing up and developing. I was a counselor for a long time, for, I don't know, 12 years in substance abuse counseling and mental health counseling. I also worked in probation, so I was much like a probation officer. And so I've worked with humanity a lot of my life. And there was things about that career path that had sort of like these confinements of, we couldn't really get into the depth of like the roots of like the true roots of issues going on for them. It was really kind of scratching the surface of symptoms. So I found that although that was an amazing career, it was quite limited. And so eventually I went on to knowing that I wanted to be a coach and knowing that there was more flexibility with that. And so I came into, one, I just started sharing my writing a lot. So writing about my personal experiences. And then also, I Oh yeah, I came into this program. If you've ever heard of Layla Martin, she is like a tantric sexuality coach, but she created a school. So I actually went through her program. So when I came across that, there were so many like the deep belief systems around that. And I knew it. I was like, okay, I knew I wanted to be a coach. I was sharing my writing, sharing my rituals. And then I got into this coaching program and I started connecting everything. Everything started to fall into place. And so I just kept, being this, just sharing my unique self and just tying everything in and connecting more and more of all aspects of my life. And then I just kept putting it out there and putting it out there, and people would, it was very unique. So, I mean, I wasn't expecting a whole lot of people to gravitate towards that, but a lot of people are picking it up. And I think a lot of people are opening their eyes to these deeper connections, right? And desire to be connected, to be deeper connected to the earth around them, to themselves. So yeah, I just found that I found my niche. It was more of me. So it helps me connect to myself. And so my journey through the coaching program, I went through 6 months of very intensive going through my own stuff, right? Sorting through my own stuff. And then I started teaching and coaching and having like a lot of practices that I share with my clients. And a lot of that are rituals that I've also created and tied in with, there are tantric practices. There's a lot of breath work. Lots of writing. There's a lot involved in it, and lots of self-pleasure practices that help you deeply connect to yourself. So that's kind of a lot of it in a nutshell there. So yeah, it's been a journey. It's been amazing. And it's a way of life, really. So it's not like just a practice here and there, but it truly is a way of life. And it's my way of life too.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all that. It's really nice. And I also feel like everything in our life can be a ritual if you just make it a ritual, right? Everything can be a celebration of life. Everything can be very sacred if you just make it so. Every conversation, every meal that you have, every drink, every walk, you can be connected to your soul. And so when you are connected and when you are doing it more in like a celebration mode, everything can become like a ritual. So I completely agree that it can be a way of living when you really feel aligned with that.
Yeah, that's very true. And a lot of my messaging includes riding motorcycles. So that's something that's been a big thing for me. A lot of people that do follow me are riders. And so I show this as like, it's also a ritual, right? Like it's something that people are deeply connected to that. Like a lot of people say throttle therapy or things like that, like getting on the bike and riding, and don't quite understand that connection there. But there's something deeper happening there. And part of my message in that is like sharing like, hey, this is so much deeper than what we, may think on the surface level. And so I talk about that a lot too. So I integrate motorcycles in my work as well. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's a great passion to have, the motorcycle. I feel like it must feel like massive freedom when you ride it, because I can only relate to riding a bike, but it still feels like freedom. But when you ride a motorcycle, it has to be like so enhanced.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it really. And I have actually done rituals. I mean, that in itself, riding is a ritual, but I have done a ride before where we'd stop and like do kind of ritual based work. And so it's all connected, as long as you make the connection, right? And really it's like you set the intention. You could do the ritual basics and it becomes a ritual, anything that you do, like you were saying.
So what would you say are the ritual basics?
So ritual basics, so you can make anything a ritual, right? Like we were saying, it really is setting that intention, right? Setting intention, like how, you could ask yourself any question, or if you want, is there something that you're trying to kind of sort through, whatever that may be, before you go and take the action step, right? You set the intention. So intention plus action And what you get from that outcome is a deeper connection, right? That's really, there's just, if you want to talk like really, really basics, that's really an intention plus action equals the outcome, right? So, and whatever that is, it's like developing that deeper connection. And the more you do it, the more you gravitate towards that, right? You develop this inner strength, this inner peace. You're getting more, you become more present really in all of your life, the more you practice that. So literally you can do that with anything. If you're trying to, again, it goes back to what your intention is. And, maybe you're trying to clear some space to allow more things to come in, something that's more aligned. So taking, really, it's an intention plus really aligned action is what you want to do, is taking aligned action. But I think a lot of times people aren't really, I think in the masses, miss that connection there, right? Before they go take this action, what is their intention with it? That helps you bring you to the present, back to yourself, right? Because we can find ourselves outside of ourselves a lot, right? There's so much out there, so much distraction that we're often working on autopilot. And so that, you can really make a ritual of anything when it comes to intention, aligned action, and that equals your outcome, really.
Yeah, I can relate to that because I've done business ceremonies, for example, in the past, or some other just ceremonies. You can make a ceremony out of everything, really. And intention, I feel like, is the basis, is the fundamental thing that directs your energy. So when you intend, then the whole energy goes where you focus, right? So where you intend. So I also believe that setting an intention before anything really in your life, before, I don't know, a trip for the trip to be safe, or before going on a walk to be relaxed, or before whatever you do, to have an intention to be a conscious creator of your reality, to really direct the energy where you want it to go consciously, rather than just going, as you say, on the autopilot and just going with your subconscious programs, because then you don't have any awareness, you don't have any power over what is happening for you. Whereas if you set an intention beforehand, you have the power to create whatever outcome you want. And so then the universe aligns everything for you as you intend, rather than just all these random things happening for you.
Right. Yeah. And that's absolutely true. And what I work with my clients are these deep belief systems that are unconscious, subconscious, that they are literally acting in that space, right? They're not connected to the present. They're not really conscious of these things. And so a lot of the rituals that I do and what I help people with is bringing them back to consciousness, bringing them to the present. A lot of self-pleasure practices do that, right? So you're really onboarding all of your senses. Is super important when you are are working through these deeper belief systems, right? And continuously bringing yourself into presence and consciousness. And you can set your intention and make aligned action in that space, right? But you're also training your subconscious and unconscious beliefs. You're literally rewiring the networking, right? So it's rewiring messages that you have received throughout your life that maybe they weren't your belief systems, right? So we've been taught a lot in society. We've been taught, like growing up in our, in our development and conditioning, right? We've been conditioned to believe certain things, whether not that we didn't choose to, it's something that we observed or whatever, in early stages of life. And so many people still act upon these beliefs, right? We don't choose to believe these things, but it's something we learned. So this intimately impacts relationships, how people, like whether it's relationship with yourself, relationship with another person, it really impacts all aspects of life. And so that is really the depth of what I work with people on.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And speaking of which, speaking of stigmas and kind of society and all that, I actually would like to talk about the word lust, because I feel like, at least from what I learned, I'm Polish, so English is not my native language, but from what I understand, the word lust is kind of like, in collective consciousness, has some kind of like negative connotation to it. It's like, oh, that's wrong, that's a sin, you shouldn't be in, you know, in this energy of lust or whatever. And I just really want to talk about it, because I feel like it's such a taboo in some ways, and also our subconscious mind will have probably, based, if someone is coming from a religious background, they probably really feel like, oh, lust, that's not for me. Maybe desire, maybe, but that's still like, oh, desire in Buddhism, oh, you shouldn't have desire. So I really would like to break the stigma of these words, and I would like to ask you what it means for you, if you really look at it from a conscious perspective, from like a higher perspective, let's say, not just like a religion based, oh, this is sinful and you're not supposed to do this kind of thing.
Yeah, right. So most of us have heard in our lifetime, lust for life, right? Maybe you've heard those words together. A lust for life. So I think about it like this. I mean, of course, I have my challenges dealing, like with ritual lust. I have people coming to me and be like, oh, lust, huh? Like, what do you do? They're very like, I don't really get a lot of skeptical people, but I get some people that think I offer something that's not actually what I offer. But then I see, okay, this is where some of these people are disconnected, right? They see lust and think, oh, is this person like, maybe she's got an OnlyFans or something. I'm like, no, I don't have an OnlyFans. I never will. I mean, which is fine too. Like when people do that, if they want to, there's nothing on that, but that's just not what I offer. I do these rituals. I do these, I teach people these practices and things, like lust for life. Like I'm a desire-based coach. And what that means is it's very goal focused. So like I was saying, I came from being a counselor and probation for probably, I don't know, collectively 16 years of doing that work, that, it was always trying to treat a symptom and not the problem, but it's also this kind of backwards anyway. I'm not trying to treat a problem. We're working through barriers that keep us from our goals, right? So, but that's what desire-based coaching is about. Focus on the goal, not the problem. So I come from these systems that it's always trying to treat a symptom, focusing on a problem, where desire-based coaching is the opposite, where it's like, no, we're focusing on our goals, our desired goals, whatever that may be. And so a lot of times it's like, maybe in intimacy, relationships, whatever that issue may be, that, people do come to me and say, hey, I really want this. Like I see that, other people are doing it, but they may have some barriers that we work through. But again, it's the desired goal. So lust is really about that, like a lust for life, right? Living in your pleasure. And so that's another taboo, right? Pleasure, desire, lust. Well, living from a pleasured state is living in your highest power. That's a strength. So, being able to gravitate towards what it is that you truly want, rather than like, there's a mindset there, right? So whether it's that, or, feeling like, hey, I'm maybe not worthy of that desire. I can't really, like, I have all these can'ts and I can't make it. And so it's like working through all that. But really, to me, lust is about living from a pleasured state, taking care of yourself, self-love, self-pleasure. And your mindset is about getting after what it is that you want. Lust for life. And so that's what I teach.
Amazing. I love that. I love that lust for life.
Yeah.
But that brings me to a question, because I feel like, for example, I have a lot of lust for life, like a lot of it. And, I have a lot of joy. I have a very open sacral chakra. I have a lot of these energies, sexual energies, and all these things. But I also find that sometimes I might want things too much, in terms of like, maybe not as much anymore when I actually like discovered it, because I had a session with my friend who's a clairvoyant, and he's like, okay, you just need to stop wanting anything and then everything will come to you. And I'm just like, how am I supposed to stop wanting things? You know, I just want so many things in my life. So I really want to ask about this like balance between how to have desires and have this last for life, but also to not want things too much, because I feel like, you know, if you have awareness of it, that you want something too much, then it's great. And then you can work with it. But what's your perspective on it? Like, first of all, how to discover this fine line between wanting too much and kind of being on this like goal-oriented desire, lustful life vibes, right? And yeah, so where's this line? And also, if you're already wanting too much and you're on beyond this line, then what to do then?
So I guess I would challenge the idea of wanting too much, like, you know, feeling like that. So that kind of the words there, like the too much, wanting too much, feeling too much. I feel, to me, I don't actually, I feel like there isn't too much, right? I feel like you can have, you have an entire lifetime to obtain everything that it is you want. And obviously we change and we pivot with things along the way. Our desires may change, goals change. But I feel like there isn't too much. So, you know, I feel like we're here to live on purpose, right? Not to like, I mean, we live our purpose, but we live on purpose, right? So inviting more of those things, everything that it is that you actually do want, like I celebrate and I teach, like, go for it. There isn't too much, right? We're not too much. We don't feel too much. What we want isn't too much. And so that's kind of where I would say there isn't really a line. I feel like if people are trying to get everything all at once, I feel like that can be super overwhelming. It's like, okay, you know, maybe one thing at a time, take 2 steps,
That's
you know,
me.
that, yeah, right. Or like trying to make everything happen all at once, which can be overwhelming for people, or they get uncomfortable. Like, I'm not where I want to be right now. I want to be here. And then it's like, okay, we need to talk about how you can invite in more joy or invite in more like presence where you are right now as you're working towards something, right? And I don't mean to say like you should just be happy. I'm very much about like feeling everything that it is that you feel, right? Feel all your feelings. You know, learn to like understand your thought process, that these thoughts come and go, learning to be okay with yourself in that time as you're working towards things. So I feel like that there's not too much. It's just, you know, maybe working on too much at that time might be a little bit much. So yeah, just to like, you don't want to find yourself in overwhelm, but also keeping that, like what these things that you want, like as sort of a guiding light, right? Like a guiding light along your path. And yeah, so that's what I would say is there isn't a line really for too much.
Yeah, and I totally resonate
yourself.
with that. Yeah, I totally resonate with that. But what I also mean is like wanting too much in terms of just being, I guess, maybe attached to the outcome. As you say, it's like your desire is the guiding light. It's not like, okay, if I don't have it, then I'm not going to be satisfied. Or if I don't have it, I'm not going to be happy. And that's what I mean by too much, because like, I just want to have everything that I want to have now. Like, you know,
yeah, right.
It's kind of like, I just want it all now. It's not like I want to wait. It's not like I want to, I don't know, work my ass off to do this. I just want it now, period.
Right.
That's all, you know? So that's what I mean. Like kind of being more, maybe a little bit too much attached to the desires that you have. And like, because I feel like I really appreciate my life and I'm really grateful, but I also have such big goals that it seems like, okay, I want more. But then in a lot of like, let's say religious or like Buddhism or whatever, some of the like, how do you say, like streams of philosophies or streams of ways of thinking, it's like, no, let go of the desire, so then you're not going to have suffering. But I feel like it's like, let's let go of the attachment, and then you're not going to have suffering. Like still have desire, because desire is what's driving you to get whatever. It's to expand, it's to like be more, to have more, to experience more. So if you don't have desire, then like how are you going to grow in any way in your life? If you don't want anything, you're just going to be on the same level, and ultimately you're not going to be happy or fulfilled or anything, because there's no driving force behind anything that you're doing. So I believe desire is really really good to have, and it's really great to know what you want and to just like go for whatever you want. But also I feel like, for me it's kind of like, maybe it's a matter of impatience for me actually. It's like, I freaking want this right now, so then I'm taking all these
I totally
things,
get it,
doing at the same time so that I get what I want now.
Right. Yeah. And, I find myself doing that too. Like, I'm like, why can't this happen now? Right. Like and that's something where it's like, it will come up. It's bound to come up, right? Those feelings. And, it's always that's always going to be in what we're working towards, right? Like, why can't this happen now? And it's like, these things happen in divine timing. But the attaching to the outcome is a huge thing for people, right? Like, they're focused on the outcome. And that's like living in the future, right? It's focusing so much on something in the future that is outside of yourself. You do not have control over that right now. And that's where that, like, practicing rituals, practicing like self-pleasure, practices, doing various things that can help bring you back to the present, while still focusing on what it is that you desire, but detaching yourself from an outcome. We create these stories, right? That's like the human, like, our brains want to create these stories of what is going to be next, right? Because we fear the unknown. We do. And it takes strength and practice to be okay with the unknown, right? So we always want to create the story of what, we're going to be like stepping into next. What's the future look like? Creating these stories. Whereas there's some importance to that, because obviously the drive, the desire to obtain something. But when we find ourselves so much in that story, we're living in the future and we're not living in the now. So that's where there's a balance with that, right? There is that line, like you're saying, that you really like need to bring yourself back to the present. And there's definitely many ways you can do that. Whatever modality, whatever healing modality that is, it's, working towards being conscious in the now. And that's what helps you detach from that outcome. It's perfectly fine and healthy to have these stories of what it's like you feel like your future is going to look like, right? That's important. But to live in it is like living in the past, right? You don't want to live in the past of things. Those are things that happen, and we find ourselves doing that too, right? So it's all about bringing yourself back to the present, because either way, going past or future, living in those, we start to get more outside of ourselves. We start to detach from ourselves, right? We're detaching to something that's hasn't even happened yet, or maybe something that happened a long time ago that we find ourselves living over and over and over again, like it was actually happening now. So yeah, I would say any healing modalities that would bring you to the present, that feel aligned for you, that's what's going to help you balance that.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. It's really, really great advice. I love it. And so I'm super curious if you could share maybe what your one exercise or like a sexual ritual that is your favorite, that people after listening to this podcast could go and just do for themselves to connect deeper into the, like, to themselves and to their sexuality as well.
Yeah. So there's a couple. One may be a little bit more involved, but we'll say a basic one. I actually utilize, and I'll go ahead and have you ever heard of Shock Rubs? The brand Shock Rubs? It's a crystal sex toy company. So I'll go over a few things here, but
sounds great.
This is actually obsidian, right? This is made of obsidian, and obsidian stone actually works as a magnet for negative energy. So, or maybe, energy that's not really working for us, right? So, a lot of times what you can actually use, if you do use personal or sexual tools, you can use this as a piece of meditation, right? You don't have to people see this and they are like, oh, this is, just the basics of masturbating, right? You can literally just insert this and just meditate on it. But it helps bring your senses to the present, right? So you can do that with yoni eggs. You can do that with any sexual toy, anything that brings your senses on board. So one of the things I would mention is there's a practice that I encourage my clients to do. It's called the 5 senses. This is something I've learned in my coaching program. And the 5 senses is literally about onboarding all of your senses. So taste, smell, sight, what else we got? Taste, smell, all your 5 senses. Oh, your hearing. I missed something there. Touch. So the practice is about bringing all 5 of your senses on board. So again, that's another presence practice. Whether it's like you have like a piece of chocolate next to your bed, or like fruit, and maybe you have an essential oil that you smell. So what you're doing in this practice is you are onboarding all of your senses, playing like music that is like makes you relaxed, or maybe, it's like very sensual. And then also like caressing your body, like just touching your body and exploring from a very innocent place. That is all like, and doing that all at once, right? So, smelling, the tasting, the sound, the touching, like all of that, and just feeling skin. And so that is a great way to bring your whole being into presence, right? And in that place, when you have all of your senses on board, setting an intention, right? That's like all of your senses are on board, you're setting an intention and working through whatever it is that if it's like barriers, whatever it is, maybe it's something like, I want to be more comfortable in my skin. Whatever the things may be, or maybe it's something that you're calling in, right? That's a big one. That's about, sex magic is all about that, right? You're like magnetizing, calling something in, you're bringing in your whole being on board and in alignment, right? So this is kind of a basic practice of calling whatever it is you want in, right? Like whether it's something that you want to focus on or something that you're moving through, your intention is everything in that, right? And being 100% there for that intention is everything. And so that's really a lot of like the rituals work so much, the energies work for you when you're showing up 100%, right? So that's a little bit, I know it's a very basic way to explain it, but I would say, onboarding all of your senses. And then if that's a little too much to start, I would just, like meditation is so important. But when it comes to like sexual meditation, you literally can just like lay there, caress your skin, give yourself this non-negotiable time, right? Non-negotiable time, 10 minutes to just lay there and feel your body. And, whether if you want to invite a couple things, like something that smells good, and the part that what's really important too about the senses, like all 5 of your senses being on board for this, it speaks to your primal brain. So do rituals, right? At the most basics for humans, it speaks to your primal brain, which is a pleasure house for you, right? So your brain understands these things. Your brain, like your body is healing when you're speaking to the primal brain. So rituals work for that. And whatever it may be, setting the intention, taking this aligned action, the energies work for you. That's what creates the outcome, right? So I hope that gave some good insight to practicing there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It did. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I want to
breath.
add
I'm sorry. I meant to say breath is important. I missed that, but yeah, like having, like taking time to like soften your breath and be with yourself. So
breath and movement, I feel to the breath as well is so powerful. In this ritual, I've done a self-pleasure ritual. It was like breath and movement, and it really like created so much energy within me that could really, like, some people don't even know how much energy you can just arouse by itself in a way. how much sexual energy you can
Right.
create just by moving your body and breathing and in a conscious way, right? So that's
Yeah.
really, really cool. I really, really loved it. But
Yeah.
another ritual that I like to do, sexual ritual,
Mhm.
is like maybe in like free terms would be like masturbation manifestation or manifestation
Yes.
masturbation or something, where
Yes.
really
Yeah.
I create so much energy of creative energy, right? Because sexual energy is creative energy, it's creative force. That's how we
Yes.
create babies, that's how we really
Yes.
create life. So if I
Yes.
am doing a self-pleasure ritual, I try not to climax for a really long time, and while I'm in this like almost peak state, I'm just really imagining and embodying and really feeling with all the senses everything that I want to manifest. Like, for
Yeah.
example, now I'm focused on manifestation of my life partner, and I'm really feeling him, how he is
Yeah.
hugging me, or how he is, or where are we
Yes.
going, and whatever. And when I'm creating all this energy, I'm just channeling
Yeah.
it all to my vision of the future that I want to create. And of course, in the
Right.
moment of orgasm, you will create so much of this energy that it's good to even then focus on like the most important vision for you and most important sensation in a way, because you also need to feel it to manifest it, not only see it, but yeah, hear it and smell it and so on. So for me recently, this
Yes.
has been a really nice sexual ritual that I have been doing for myself, because so much, then you put so much energy, you put so much sexual energy in your vision, and then
Yeah.
you're so present because you're with your body. So you don't have all these thoughts telling you, oh, it cannot be like that, or it's never gonna happen, or oh, do I deserve it? It's just purely you
Yeah.
are there in the moment with your body, and you're creating this energy and
Yes.
you're putting this energy there. So for me, it's been really helpful recently to do a sexual ritual like this. So I just wanted to share
Yes.
this one because it's really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many that you can do, and that's really like that's a great one, is manifesting through that it's your highest self, right? You are your highest self in that state. That's that pleasured state. So yeah, it's super powerful. And exactly like you said, that that's how we create life, we create from that space. And so yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's a very, very important one. I love that. And I love, like, sex magic is a lot about that. And I just, I've always, since I was young, I've always had this, like, I felt my power there, and so it felt aligned for me. And so yeah, I definitely encourage more of that, bringing more of that presence into your body in that place. So yeah, thanks for sharing.
Mm. Thank you. And I have a question to you that just came to me because I'm really curious to know from your perspective,
Yeah.
what does it mean, like healthy sexuality? Like, when do we achieve the state of being healthy in our sexual power and our sexual energy? Because I feel like there's a lot of, first of all, misconceptions, second of all, beliefs from, society, religion, blah, 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 all these things.
Right.
And people don't really know how it feels maybe to be very healthy in their sexual energy. Like, what does healthy sexuality
Right.
mean?
Right. Um, I would say healthy sexuality is about what is your living your purpose in that, that you're doing it for you. So that's a lot of times that, I've talked to people about that. Make sure that you're doing this for you. And so I think when people are, I don't want to say when people are healthy, but really, like, um, we're always going to struggle with those, like, discomforts and stuff throughout our life, right? But being in touch with your body isn't necessarily about, like, I want to look a certain way, or, I think of a healthy way of getting in touch with your body in a sexual way is understanding more, like, accepting, like, I think that's a huge piece, is accepting yourself as you are, and um still being able to, like, tap into that. So having that understanding, I think that's one of the first things, really, is acceptance in general. And one of those is accepting all parts of you. So when you start to do that, and that doesn't mean that we aren't going to deal with the discomforts of things throughout our life, but coming back to yourself and accepting yourself, who you are, physically, and working from that place. So healthy sexuality would be like showing up in your sexuality for you and not for somebody else, right? Not for something outside of yourself. Again, it's for you. And despite all the things that we've learned throughout our life, I think when it comes to any sex, that we've been taught that our sexuality is for somebody else, which is a huge mistake, I think, in society, that we are taught to, like, say, I'm a woman, I'm taught to give my sexuality away to someone else, like a man. Whereas, like, I think that's a definite misconception there. It's like, we have it for ourselves. That's ourselves. We can tap into that power. So I think that's the healthy sexuality, is utilizing your sexuality for you, sharing yourself with the world, and whatever that may be. That just means, like, stepping into this world and taking up space for yourself, right? Sexuality is everything. It's vast. It's how you walk into a room full of people, and you walk in and you're like, yep, this is me. I'm here. I'm going to take up space. And that's what it's about. So that's healthy. That's what I would say. Doing it for you.
Amazing. I love that. And I would add to that as well, because doing it for you means that you also know your needs and your desires. So when you know what you want and what your needs are, you're definitely doing it for yourself and not for anyone else. Because sometimes if we don't know what we want, then we can go with someone else's flow, right? And we don't even realize, like, okay, I actually wasn't really aligned with this or that. And when it comes to, let's say, interactions with others, of course, not only our own sexuality, but I feel like if you know your needs, if you know your desires, and you can freely express it, then it's very healthy, because you are coming from your authentic truth, from your heart, from yourself, really. And then you can bring the health and the communication and the boundaries as well to interactions with others. So I think that's one of the most important pieces, to just really know your needs and your desires, whether it's sexual or whether it's just normal in life, because it boils down to everything really in life when it comes to our needs and desires. And sometimes people don't know. So it's really, really important to discover it before you actually interact with someone else, or just discover it for yourself really as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that really, it's an amazing conversation. I'm really, really enjoying this. And so because we have a few minutes left only, I wanted to ask maybe, because like the theme of the sexuality is not a very common theme, let's say, it's still like a taboo. But I wanted to ask, like, what's the most important thing in your view, based on your experience and working with people, what's the most important thing that people should know about sexual energy? Because again, there's so many misconceptions about it. So what did you discover that was, like, for you personally, like a breakthrough, like, oh wow, so it works actually in this way and not in that way as I was taught? You know what I mean?
The most important thing about being in your sexual energy, and the words are taboo still, right? Sexuality, sexual desire, pleasure, lust, all those things, right? Something that I'm always working on is actually trying to break those stigmas, right? I'm getting out there, I'm exposing myself in my truest form. And so I think that the most important thing about this work is that how you're able to create, right? People miss the ball on, like, creating a life for themselves. And when you're in your pleasured state, when you are in a desired state of mind, when your mindset is geared towards what it is that you want, you're creating from that space. When you're doing these practices, when you're onboarding all your senses, when you're doing the rituals, your intention is there. You're taking aligned action because of that. You're literally creating your life. And so you're creating, it's all working for you in creating the life that you love, is what I say a lot, creating a life that you love from that energy. So again, it's not about, like, being happy all the time. It's not about, like, always being joyful. It's about being present with yourself no matter what. Right? Being okay and accepting these pieces of you, like shadow work, right? So, like, that's a lot about shadow work, is accepting parts of you that we've kind of casted away for whatever reason that we were taught to believe, or don't accept this or don't accept that. It's about accepting these pieces of you and tapping into that energy and creating that life that you so desire to have. That's what's important about this work, and being in that space, being in that aligned energy, right? So, like, onboarding all your senses, being present in the now, being present and accepting pieces of us, right? That's always going to be a challenge for us. And that this way of life helps us along the way, right? Like it's not just dabble here, dabble there. It's definitely a way of life, because day to day we deal with challenges of life. This helps keep us grounded, but this this higher self, the desired like energy state, right? That pleasure state helps us create. That really is the highest place of creation, right? Is creating life. So creating life from that space, creating the life that you want to live from that space, getting what it is that you want from that space, that's aligned. Like that's aligned with us on a primal level, right? That's how we attract our partners. That's how we, again, like we create life. So that's our pleasure house, our creative house. And so when we are talking about getting what it is that we want throughout our life, that's the place, right? So that's really, I think, the most important there is that we live in that space as much as we possibly can, because we've got this life, right? We have this chance to make shit happen for ourselves. And so that would be the most important.
Thank you so much for sharing all that. Yeah, and I feel like connecting the desire and the creativity and the creation all together is the way to go, because this really is one energy. Everything is divine energy. So the sexual energy is also divine. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. So one last question. If someone really vibes with you and would like to see your content and more of what you're about, what's the best way to find you?
Yeah, I'm very active on Instagram. So I'm on there quite a bit, but I also have a website. So it's www.ritual+, so RITUALUST.com. So that's where you'll find my story. I'll talk about like the work that I do, working with me. I also have an online store. So I do sell ritual kits, like you can see. So they have actually, like, it has a lot of different pieces of earth. It has like a whole way to set up an altar. So I have lots of stuff like that on my store and clothes. And then I'm also doing a swim line coming up pretty soon. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
That's amazing. You do a lot of amazing stuff. I'm super grateful that you agreed to be on the podcast, and super grateful for your energy and all your insights. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's such an honor, and I had such a good time speaking with you today. It's so nice to, talk with people that are, that's something that you're aligned with this work, right? You're actually doing it, and you see how it works for you, and it's so nice to communicate and with you, and seeing all the people on the podcast that you have so far. It's just amazing.
Oh,
so thank you for
so much.
choosing me to be one of them.
Oh, thank you.